Rod Booth, and this is part 2 of our assembly highlights from the 6th Assembly of the World Council of Churches. We concluded the first part last week with the dramatic confrontation between Alan Bozak of South Africa and Bishop Festo Kavengere of Uganda. We begin this week with Coretta Scott King, the widow of the late Martin Luther King, Jr.
Martin Luther King, Jr. once said that the church should be a headlight and not a tail light. Some of you may remember that he was scheduled to address the 4th Assembly of the World Council of Churches in Uppsala, Sweden, back in 1968. I know how much he wanted to be with you on that occasion, but he was assassinated on April 4th, 1968, and that desire was never consummated. In a sense, however, I believe the World Council of Churches has picked up his challenge to be a headlight. This great organization has been a beacon of light, and you have spoken out clearly and forcefully for the cause of humanity. No matter what Reader's Digest and Mr. Reagan may say about you,
in the last several years, the world has become an increasingly pluralistic place, and more than in any previous World Council of Churches assembly, guests of other living faiths contributed their insights to the Vancouver event.
As a member of the original olive tree, I want to bring greeting to all of these olive branches. The issue of the gift of life is the central issue of the survival of the human family today. Jews and Christians stake their existence on the fundamental affirmation in the Torah and the Gospel that every human being is created b'tselem Elohim, in the divine image, that every human life is of infinite worth and preciousness in the eyes of God, that no human being is expendable for anyone's program or ideology or revolution.
Jesus Christ is no stranger to us. He was born poor like most of us in our part of the world. He didn't speak English or French, German or Spanish, the official languages of this holy assembly, and not even Russian. And he didn't have blue eyes and blonde hair. Christianity today is an honored religion in the East, and there are 4 times more Christians in India than there are in Switzerland, the headquarters of the WCC. We are here not to preach or to convert, not even to have a dialogue, because dialogues are dangerous. But we are in a holy pilgrimage of discovery, of understanding. We greet you with all our heart, the WCC particularly, who has made this pilgrimage possible. Believe me when I say we'll reciprocate this generosity and understanding in no uncertain terms.
The location of Vancouver at the edge of the Pacific Ocean, which despite its peaceful name is one of the most heavily militarized areas of the world, turned the Assembly's attention to the people of the Pacific's widely scattered islands and the witness and concerns of the churches there.
We look to our history, our culture, as well as the gospel, as the measuring rods. Before, the gospel was foreign and Western. Now, it is relevant and meaningful. Before, our Christ had blue eyes and spoke English or French. Now, we see him brown-eyed. He speaks our language and is one of us inclusively. Before it was wheat and grapes, bread and wine. Today it is coconut. As it rolls down, we see the gifts of God rolling down with it. Food, drink, industry, money, fellowship, and evangelism. It rolls down with the elements of the Eucharist.
Please stop introducing more religious groups into the Pacific. The Pacific is no longer a mission field in the sense that to evangelize lost souls is to go out there in the Pacific. We are so small in population to be continually burdened by transplanted models and theologies of the Western churches.
From 1946 to 1958, there were 66 atomic and hydrogen bombs. Since then, we have had endless of health problems. For example, we have hundreds of women who have miscarriages. We have leukemia cancers. We have thyroid cancers. We have stillbirth babies. We have nowadays, I just gone back from home, and I have talked to many women and men in the population, is that we have babies we call jellyfish babies. A baby is born on a labor table, and it moves up and down like this. It's a colorful, ugly thing. It does not shape like a human being. It moves up and down like this on a labor table because that thing is breathing. That is a baby. And we have more than 10 of these all over throughout the islands. I, too, have 3 tumors in me. I'm about to have a surgeon, and I'm frightened. I don't know whether I should have children or not, because I don't know whether I'll have a child that is like a jellyfish baby. All we know is we must travel throughout the world and share this kind of experience from the bombs so that we must stop it before it gets to you. Remember, we are the victim of the nuclear age. Don't become a victim.
Actors, musicians, dancers, and visuals illustrated how Jesus Christ, the life of the world, is manifested in the experience of Canada, host country to the Assembly.
Well, are you getting ready for the trip? I forgot. Trump.
Hey, we'd better bring a short course in Canadian history.
Which one?
Canadian history. Cartier, Champlain, Roberval, des explorateurs, Louis Hébert, le premier fermier, Marie de l'Incarnation, Maisonneuve, Jeanne Mance, Marguerite Bourgeois, Laval, Montcalm, Papineau, Berlacon, Dumont, Duplessis, Trudeau.
No. Cartier and Champlain, sure. But what about Wolfe, Henry Hudson, Vancouver, Lord Durham, Lord Selkirk, Bishop Strong, and Bishop Inglis, William Lyon Mackenzie, John A. MacDonald, Newton, and Wordsworth, and Douglas, and Stephen Baker, and all the rest!
So, we have 2 histories.
The history of the late arrivals. the hyphenated Canadians. The history of the German Canadians.
The history of the Ukrainian Canadians.
The history of the Japanese Canadians.
La storia della comunità italiana in Canada.
The history of the Jewish Canadians. West Indians!
Spanish!
Either we work together or we die. The grain growers set up their own grain elevators, pooled their wheat, started their own cooperative stores.
And the churches?
They changed too. You're a Presbyterian.
No, I'm not. I'm a Methodist.
Where'd you get off the train?
Right here.
Closest station to your farm?
That's right.
Then you're a Presbyterian. Next town over is Methodist. They agreed, see. Now, if you'd gone off in Melville...
What would I be?
Union.
Union?
Yeah, they got together, belonged to both denominations.
But I'm a Methodist!
Look, we don't have the people for that sort of thing. If you're hungry for bread, you don't care what shape the loaf comes in.
A central part of the Canadian experience is the lives of those peoples who had inhabited the country long before the Europeans arrived. The spirituality of native Canadians was vivid throughout the assembly. It was symbolized in a 50-foot totem pole carved by native Canadian inmates at a British Columbia prison and raised during the assembly. At the conclusion of the assembly, it was given to the World Council of Churches to be set up at the Council's Geneva headquarters.
Our land is indeed a holy land. Our identity is inseparable from our land. By definition, Aniska does not exist in the fullness of his being without a complete melding of his land, language, laws, tribal system, and, most important, spiritual values.
Sunday, July the 31st, 1983. On a warm and sunny morning in Vancouver, 3,500 people gathered in the worship tent for the Feast of Life, a celebration of the Eucharist according to an ecumenical liturgy that reflects the theological convergence on the questions of baptism, Eucharist, and ministry. The so-called BEM text was affirmed by the WCC's Faith and Order Commission at its January 1982 meeting in Lima, Peru. It was only the third time that the so-called Lima liturgy had been used, and never before by so many and such diverse peoples.
Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I welcome you, and in your name greet many thousands who share this service through television. Every Sunday is for us a day of resurrection. But this morning's celebration by representatives of Christian churches all over the world proclaims afresh the power of the risen Lord to reconcile a broken and divided humanity.
But if full Eucharistic fellowship remains a goal, there is evidence of serious efforts to overcome one of the deepest splits in Christendom, that between the Protestant and Orthodox churches who belong to the World Council of Churches on the one hand and the Roman Catholic Church on the other. The delegation of Roman Catholic official observers in Vancouver was the largest ever at a WCC Assembly, and the Vatican is already engaged in a serious examination of the Lima documents on baptism, Eucharist, and ministry.
And fraternal greetings from the Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops. Ecumenical collaboration among the churches and faith groups of this country is an everyday reality, particularly in the manner in which we approach issues of human rights, social justice, and peace. When Pope Paul VI first visited Geneva, the Joint Working Group has expressed the kind of collaboration which I have just mentioned, has expressed this kind of collaboration with the Roman Catholic Church, a collaboration which includes the planning of programs and participation in numerous subunits of the World Council. The doctrinal convergences in the Lima Statement, while far from complete in some instances, nonetheless point very clearly to an emerging consensus which offers hope to all who genuinely desire unity.
It was through its study of the 8 carefully pre-selected issues that the Assembly set about formulating policy and priorities for the years ahead. The issues were introduced in mime.
quedara de una manera bien clara.
Señores y señoras, you don't really understand participation.
My hands are dusty hands.
Mine are actually quite smooth.
My hands are tired, but they can still hold other hands.
My hands may be calloused, but they still are caring hands.
Do you really understand what you are doing? Don't be in too much of a hurry. Opening that box may affect all of us.
We can't even control what we have now.
It might be something that provides security for all of us.
My children are hungry and 2 have died. This sack of green is all I have.
You think I like this work? I've tried to get another job, but no way.
Now, not so loud. I appreciate your concerns and I really understand. But here at this assembly, can we really do anything about such problems? Pastor, what do you think? This question of learning in...
Also ich finde, das ist in dieser Situation.
Ja.
Das ist impossible de donner la liberté de...
What happens when we take the term communication, the common human act of sharing information to animate life and build community, and add the adjective Christian?
Two of the issues and the link between them had particularly high visibility at the Assembly: peace and justice.
The peoples of the world are coming to their feet in growing numbers, demanding justice, crying out for peace. These are present signs of hope. The ecumenical approach for peace and justice is based on the belief that without justice for all, everywhere, we shall never have peace anywhere.
But how can be achieved today concrete social justice? The answer which was given is through a new international economic order. No doubt, this is the answer. But what can we do as Christians and churches? We must confess our limitations. We don't have the power to impose that order upon the world.
It seems to me that this assembly is called to say to the church and to the world in our time that the commitment to justice is the missing component in the worldwide struggle for peace. You will note that there is chapter and verse on Christian positions on the nuclear threat, including a strong and courageous statement on deterrence. I celebrate all of that. But there must also, it seems to me, be specific chapter and verse on the issue of economic justice.
92% of the world's people live neither in Russia or America, us. And we want to survive. And if these two juvenile superpowers can't control themselves, they're going to blow up the world. I spent an hour and a quarter with President Reagan, alone with his daughter. He's not very bright. We're in the hands of incompetent people who don't know anything. I repeat, who don't know anything. Practically everything that President Reagan told me was inaccurate.
In the face of such concrete dilemmas, the churches of the World Council struggle both to retain the unity of the family and yet be true to the prophetic tradition.
I would express appreciation for the cordial way in which friends from many parts of the world have acknowledged the presence of Salvationists at this assembly, thus giving us an opportunity to affirm that the Salvation Army has not withdrawn from the World Council itself.
I'm extremely disappointed the way the resolution has been drafted. The drafters have selected the weakest possible language for this resolution. If it were any Western country, I'm sure the World Council of Churches would have jumped on it and denounced it, the similar action, in the strongest possible language available in the dictionary. The atrocities committed by the Soviet troops are not even mentioned.
We are, Mr. Moderator, at an important milestone in our ecumenical life together. I'm asking you, what will the real benefit be to the people of Afghanistan with this proposed amendment? It will be yet another propaganda clap of hands. But surely the World Council is called to produce documents that can actually make change possible. And I am concerned, in fact, I am convinced that this document, which we have so carefully and so arduously worked out in this committee, is such a document.
I feel that we are trying to avoid really spelling out the issues of what is involved in Afghanistan. People are suffering. People are being killed.
The amendment has been defeated. 306 against the amendment, 278 for the amendment, and 35 abstentions.
On Friday night and Saturday morning, August 5th and 6th, 38 years after the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima, participants in the assembly joined together in a dramatic witness to their commitment to a peaceful world.
We have come at this setting of the sun, the end of the day, because we want to commit ourselves to uphold, uplift, and respect the lives of persons and peoples, the life of all creation. While we meet here, groups and communities all over the world are keeping watch with us at the same time.
Where are you? Where are you? As if in reply, a pile of tangled timbers moved with a creaking noise. Bleeding all over, my wife stood upright with our 2-month-old baby tightly in her arms.
God says, I want you to be my partner. Isn't that something? God says, I want you to help me establish, extend my kingdom. I am God's partner. You are God's partner, helping him to establish his kingdom of shalom, of justice, of peace, of compassion, of caring, of loving, of sharing. And God says to you, my brothers and sisters, as we go out from here, let's make real for this world that kingdom. For if God be for us, says St. Paul, if God be for us, who can be against us?